Where do vegans want the farm animals to go? Honest question. Let's say they perfect synthetic meat today and outlaw the killing of animals for food. What next? Where do these animals go? This is a thought experiment, people. Like a genie granting a wish. To the ones that are taking this question too seriously, I can only say, please go outside, I promise. The sun won't hurt you that much. They stop getting bred and die off in their own time. I don't think vegans expect this to be an overnight change. No one wants to release the cows and chickens into the wild or euthanize them. The goal would presumably be a very gradual process where the supply would be decreased with less demand for meat. But I don't think it would ever disappear fully. That would take a huge societal shift, and personally I don't think that will happen for a very long time. Maybe not in my lifetime or ever. They would stop being forced to reproduce. Many farmed animals should live out their lives and then die without being replaced. There is a place for large herbivores in the future ecologies. Not in factories but in minimally managed grasslands. Farm animals like sheep, goats, etc. are already part of landscape maintenance measures. Or simply part of the landscape. They don't exist as they stop being bred. The longest-lived industrial farm animals are dairy cows, which area most always slaughtered before they turn 6. Beef cows rarely make it to 3 years. At the other end of the scale, meat chickens are usually slaughtered at the 2-month mark. They want them to stop being bred for meat. In the meantime, placed on a ranch or other ecosystem that can reasonably support them. The infeasibility of just releasing them to the wild isn't a gotcha. It's another problem vegans have with the system. It isn't natural. Vegans don't just want more and more animals. They want animals to live good lives. They understand that means sometimes you have to kill them under some circumstances. They don't include eating them as an appropriate circumstance. Attrition is the natural progression. But in all likely these animals will likely be slaughtered and either sold for dog food or simply disposed of. I'm sure a few hardcore vegans will adopt, given the chance, so that an animal and live out the rest of their natural life in peace. But that's going to be the rare exception rather than the rule. What vegans want if for that to be the last of it, rather than the perpetual, ongoing, and ever-worsening lives farm animals have in store for them otherwise. It wouldn't make sense to do that. But if the demand drastically decreases, the supply will follow real fast. Corporations don't like producing products they can't sell. I think I read somewhere that over 40 feet cows are butchered every day in the USA alone. I seriously doubt they would outlaw raising animals for slaughter overnight. It's going to take a long time to build enough factories to replace those amounts. Definitely won't happen overnight. Throughout all of the comments here and in basically every argument around this, I see it's always vegans arguing against the horrors of industrial farming, which is unfortunately where most of our meat and produce comes from, and other people arguing for the merits of smaller rural farms. I grew up on a tiny farm in Ill. I know how we raised crops and livestock. And it's nothing like what I hear people arguing against, but that's not how most people get their beef or eggs. People need to get on the same page. I think the ideal solution in the vegan mind would be to slowly transition away from factory farming. The animals live out their lives in a farm sanctuary environment and we don't breed anymore. As soon as the aliens who I have been contacting through my dental fillings arrive and put me supreme leader of Earth, I'll get right on that. We wouldn't breed 100 billion of them. Downvote me all you want. But this is the exact question slave owners would ask emancipationists as a failed gotcha attempt. There are 3 ways it could go. 1. Least likely the world goes vegan overnight. Animal sanctuaries are set up, and in 20 years most cows, pigs and chickens are dead and gone. 2. Mid-likely laws come banning animal ag. Current animals are slaughtered and eaten. No more. 3. Most likely gradual reduction in demand over time as alternative proteins and lab meat gain market share. After a generation or two of people not eating animals, society is receptive to veganism and we're all basically vegan. They stop being forced to exist by way of mass production reproduction. I suppose that would be a problem if everybody suddenly became vegan overnight. But more realistically, it would happen over decades. Demand would fall. And as farm animals died, they would get replaced less often. Let's say you have 1,000 pigs. Those 1,000 pigs will die. Let's say you don't have that rule. 1,000,000 more pigs will die. They live out their lives until they die naturally, but they are not replaced. Farm animals been bred to the point where they couldn't survive on their own. Most vegans aren't fucking stupid, so the answer is we outlaw breeding animals and importing animals. So there are no or very few new farm animals, and then we eat all the ones that currently exist. Outlawing killing animals for meat is a very stupid way to accomplish getting people to stop killing animals for meat. It's not realistic, nor are people suggesting that tomorrow morning animal products all be banned. It's a slow process. We want to convince the masses. That takes many years. Since about 80 billion animals are killed for food every year, ideally we'd have a phased end to animal agriculture. Just eat all of the remaining livestock and stop breeding. Otherwise we'd have an environmental catastrophe trying to feed hundreds of billions of bred animals for the duration of their natural lives. It's a silly question. We use animals for way more than meat. Their bones, fat, organs, fur, feathers, and bodily fluids all get used. Eliminate the need for meat and we'd still process animals for human needs. It would require a change to every industry and every household to shift from animal products. Even vegans indirectly use products derived from the processing of animals. It's nearly impossible to avoid. They live happily ever after. They don't want there to be farm animals. Is it really that difficult? Stop breeding animals for a start would reduce the current number of animals greatly. Rehoming, rescues and sanctuaries to let these precious animals live their lives without fear or suffering. They go upstate and get to live on a farm. My bet is that a small amount of farm animals will remain to continue extract stuff to create meat. Cultivated in laboratories. The rest killed to eat. I love effective altruism and all that, but I am very pessimistic that we will actually rid ourselves of livestock entirely. Maybe it will be good enough to reduce our consumption of livestock considerably. Some would be pets. Some would go to zoos. They wouldn't be forced to breed. The ones that exist would have better lives, I hope. Livestock have no rights at all. There would be no need to breed them. This isn't Mother Nature making a deer. This is forever breeding programs that would no longer be needed. We could just ban breeding and let farmers finish their stash. Can't we just pat them lovingly as we turn them into food? That way they know we appreciate them for their purpose. I think what they want is to basically have the change be more gradual so that the surplus can be lowered until it's closer to a natural population and they can be released into the wild or given to a type of sanctuary. I believe that's the ideal scenario. Will that happen? Probably not. But if you agree the meat industry is bad and should be abolished, I don't think you're going to advocate we don't do the good thing because it won't go ideally. There's gonna be one last giant barbecue and everyone is invited.